this interesting feedback about cuteness as a weapon, cuteness that is weaponized, cuteness as a communication style. The internet has created its own landscape of legend, mythos, and history. I think a lot of people have these like internet aesthetic maps, but I also think that these maps could be put into the idea of like a barony. Some things resist being aestheticized by the sheer fact that they are meant to be aestheticized. Does that make sense? Making bullshit. It's like it's just become its like own aesthetic. Hey, what's up, you guys? I decided to switch things up by showing you a different part of my house. The consistency comes from the fact that I'm always going to be on the floor. She's always going to be on the floor. This NB likes the floor. Hey, this is me, Brie, otherwise known as B. Welcome back to the Chanel, the channel, the Chanel. And thank you for clicking on this video and watching it. If this is your first time being here, hello. If it's not your first time being here, thank you so much for talking to me again. I thought you blocked me, and then I realized that you were probably just busy, which is fine too. How's it been? How's everyone doing? I'll tell you what, I obviously am using a drink thing. I forget what do you call this? I want to say cup holder so bad. I don't think it's that. It's the drink thing. I'm using the drink thing. A coaster. I'm using this coaster as my microphone holder today. Hopefully we don't have a lot of, harsh paper sounds, but everyone wants to use textures on Photoshop. They don't want to use textures on their audio. And let me tell you something. I understand the reason why. I'm going to be a maverick and say that we're going to bring the textures back into our audio. Like this. Ooh, that feels good for me. I don't know if you like it, but I love it. I love it. This is going to be me doing a slightly more informal video. I think I said that last time I did a video and it was informal. This is even more informal because there's no script, no scrumped. It's all just gonna be dumped on the page and the radio waves. Listen, I'm bringing you and power energy. I'm just gonna start yapping, and talking. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, I thought it would be kind of fun for me to level with you guys and tell you what I have been thinking about lately and research trends or situations that I have been seeing coming up on my page. Now, if you would like to follow me on my Instagram, which I do not use barely at all, I have my main one, which is going to be right here, and I'll probably will put my second one as well, which is where I have been sending all of this like collated stuff to. I don't know which one I'm going to post on more. You guys tell me the vibes that you would like to see on my Instagram pages, because I am so out of practice when it comes to posting. With that being said, let me bring... You think I'm joking? Hold on, guys. You think I'm joking? I'm not playing around. I know I'm funny and I know that I love to play, but sometimes I'm not joking, bitch. So you thought I was joking. I'm not joking around. Okay? This is actually something that I have been practicing in my real life, but I feel like I've noticed a slight trend. Well, I'm hoping that it'll become a trend, which is going back to the basics. I think we've had a lot of resurgence in the graphic design field, which I'm not in, but I'm pushed into it without, any care for what I want at the end of the day. I think the graphic designers are really enjoying going back to a bezel and an emboss. They're really enjoying continuing the trend of Brat Summer, which is also leaning into, but I think it's this kind of like Berliner, elongated, like transform, vertical, font choice, Arial, Brackensoft, Calibri, like style context. And I think that is also making its way into the way that we look at our items and tools. I'm expecting people to start leaning into what a device can already do for you and appreciating the basics that you come with. The Notes app is the sort of default app that people look at for the environment of ideating, apologizing, arguing, backtracking, and generally just tracking things. My hope is that that continues with a lot of the other software that we have. I recently saw this video of someone using PowerPoint to showcase what people would typically only do on Canva or ascribe to being on Canva. I have an Obsidian environment, which I think I've mentioned a couple of times, and I know I said I would do a video about my Obsidian environment, and I hope to do one soon, eventually. I also have a personal website, which I'm looking to beef up into more of a casual blog, but the thing that I like to use the most when it comes to tracking all of my different interests, anything that comes across my feed that I find to be fascinating, that I know would typically get lost in me bookmarking and screenshotting it or something like that, is making a running tracker of things that I find engaging. And this all started because I remember Mindy Sue had a CV that was essentially just an Excel sheet, and I thought that was so cool. And ever since then, I've been kind of experimenting with using technologies, given functions and standard softwares to create things that are really interesting or at least incredibly useful to me. So that's one. The other thing that I have been really tracking is researching research as a practice, and especially in techno art, the gospels of the internet researcher, the work that they do, what it looks like, what that person looks like, and what they produce. This is also coming from the Substack and YouTube video by Being Online called Why Are There No New Aesthetics? I've connected this to the idea of the sort of esoteric meme format that has gotten really big, and these lacanian structural graphs and chart types that are also quite large. And I have had my own feelings about this because on one hand, I find these things to be incredibly so cool, and I love seeing all of the different like ways that people like have used graph or using mapping and indexing to track, channel, and future site different topics, especially ones that technically speaking resist being graphed or resist being viewed in a structural format, but we force them into shape, and it makes them more discernible and more understandable. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Does it further complicate things? Graphs are supposed to make things simple, but a lot of graphs are quite complex that you end up seeing. So I really liked mapping and tracking in general, but this graph shit has also been so like unique in the way that I have seen these things going around the internet for a while. Maybe I say like I noticed it like solidly like maybe 7 years ago, and it has been so interesting seeing the idea of the esoteric hot literati who is like into like technological epistemologies, who's into like post-human like deconstruction, reconstruction, unconstruction, all of it, making bullshit. It's like it's just become its like own aesthetic, and that aesthetic is something that I know that we harp on the fact that every aesthetic and every subgroup has their own, like every subgroup has their own aesthetic, but some things resist being aestheticized by the sheer fact that they are meant to be aestheticized. Does that make sense? I feel a lot of the work that I'm actually saying are things that are produced to be aestheticized, not in the influencer way, but in the government psyops, the idea of like demons in ancient Mesopotamian like wind gods living in our computer chips, talking and feedbacking to us so that we produce these like ancient chakrams that get into our brains and allow us to reach higher thresholds of depravity or of knowledge, which I think is not real. Boo, everyone likes to be boring. I don't think it's real, but it is kind of funny to think about, right? I think so. I've been seeing a lot of pieces about cute and the ideas of what it means to be cute in a virtual sense and in a real sense, and how virtuality and the reality that we live in are beginning to like collaborate and merge together. One sometimes kind of corrodes the other. This interesting feedback about cuteness as a weapon, cuteness that is weaponized, cuteness as a communication style, cuteness as a historical story, an offense, a shield, a guard, a net. Especially have been thinking about it because I was looking at that Brazilian song that I've been seeing like a bunch of edits to, that they kept using it in the World Cup edits. Ela que letada, letada, ela que letada, elada, like you know that one, right? Right. There's a singer in that whose name xoxo. I was listening to her voice and I was like, oh, it really fits the song. And then I found another song that she was performing on and I was like, oh, she sounds really good on this too. And then I was listening to more of her music and I was like, she really sounds like a baby. To me, some languages, people speak a certain way. That's just how it goes. There are certain languages where certain people will speak a certain way, or it will sound a certain way, even though it's completely normal in their language. Like, a lot of the time, I think a lot of people might have an expectation of transatlantic. I feel like a lot of people understand like the transatlantic flair that a lot of people would have spoken in the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s. The sort of, oh, father, I don't know if I can do that. You have the typecasted characters of like what Julie Garland was going to sound like versus what Mae West sounds like, but it comes from the they are two branches coming off of the same tree, right? So sometimes you have people that just speak like that because their society and their culture popularizes it. However, I think there's something weird about it sound like a baby. I feel like that. And it's a whole like, this is obviously about like sex, shucking, hunching. Like, this is about that. So why are we sounding like a baby? It's very e-girl, very like the corporatization and capitalization off of subversive elements that are also like really feed into like conservative pipelines of what women can be, that is still, you know, divergent enough from the traditional idea of like feminism that we had back in the 1950s, but is just the same kind of, it's like the rebranding of the pigeonholes that we had for women back in the day, now newly formatted with a fresh spray of paint. Which, that I finally have watched Obsession, we have to talk about that, and how it also relates to the idea of like cuteness and manic love. It also relates to the ideas of like manic cuteness and this whole like, oh my god, I love you so much, I rip off my flesh and literally just bake it into chips. Like, the Pinterest mood boards have hit, but another time. And I also will link a couple of like fun things that I found in relation to a lot of the ideas I'm discussing. I found this creator, Zarb World, who made a really cool printable zine. Interestingly enough, I don't think it was actually this woman who came up first for me. Zoe Nobilau. She has a lot of different like things on her page, like basically talking about like cuteness and decoration and art, and like our ideas around cuteness. She has an entire page curated for cute studies, and it's like a reading list, but it also has like music playing, which is super cute. Literally, like, the idea of like, it's super cute that someone set this up and like put all of these pieces together, and it's very well done, and it's like made available, so it's like, oh, thank you, but also it's super cute studies. And I also find it intriguing the way that people relate to cute studies, especially the thing that I was looking for specifically when it came to cute studies was the fact of cute studies being something that is touched upon and lived primarily through East Asian experiences and the experiences of like East Asian women. What that means and what it looks like to be cute, especially as someone who is still sorting through their identity and how it relates to how people perceive me and how that has changed in maybe like a 5 year time, referencing the idea of cuteness and thinking about how much of that is opted into, how much of that is without consent, and how much of that is a new hyperfeminine weapon. So really into cute studies. Um, yes, there is a new idea all over the place of the digital folklore. When I'm thinking of digital folklore, I'm thinking about not just the idea of medieval like structured scripts and textiles and decoration that has been popping up alongside a lot of the cool like posters and shit that we're seeing online, but more the idea of how the internet has created its own landscape of legend, mythos, and history. I think a lot of people have these like internet aesthetic maps, but I also think that these maps could be put into the idea of like a barony, the landscape of the internet, and the folklore of the internet, and memes as a production of folklore. I think memes, especially the ones that we have gotten that are so like they are literally so folkloric. Memes are themselves a myth, an identity. They play upon and into the critical cultural stressors, ideas, and variations of life in that current day and time, which is why I think digital folklore is so interesting because we have such a condensing of time in a very specific, fast moving language that capitalizes on constantly upgrading, constantly becoming more swathed and like double speak and overturned, like weird phrasatures. It really plays upon time. When it comes to time, I've also been kind of constructing my own ideas about how we navigate ephemera and the archive, but also what speculative archives can look like. I feel like archiving and archival practices are a like they're one of the things that I'm like always on my shit about. So I've been looking a lot at library mothership, mostly because I love when I have ideas and people tell me that's fucking stupid, and then I see someone do it in London, and I'm like, well, look at the material, so I can do it. I was looking at Library Mothership, which is a really cool collective, anyways, and they have volume 2 of their home scanning pop up exhibition, collaborative work style happening, which I find really cool. I was also looking at the Black Memory Collective, digitization and archival silences. The idea of learning, knowing, researching, investigating, deep diving, all of these big, big verbs. But what does it mean when we are constantly searching for new information and are training ourselves to regurgitate it, essentially getting ourselves stuck into the loop of burnout that we experienced back in high school? And you can tell me that you're not going to experience burnout because this is your special interest. Tap me again when a new philosophical fad comes around that breaks away from the Eurocentric German Slavic philosophers that you have been looking into. And tap me again then. Tap me again when someone from Paraguay's like philosophies get condensed into like a really, well structured and well designed book that blows up on your ends of TikTok. Tell me again. Tell me about that in. Huh? Tell me about that in. I think my last thing that I can think about realistically, girl tech and girl shit. Talk about slop. I think, oh my god, Tiat. So Tiat Place is a really cool gallery and sort of like studio practice, I think, for creative technologists. They had this like they made this they've been posting about it and looking into like slop content and like slopcore. And the funnest thing was all of the different kind of slop that they have. Girl, the camera just shut off. Hold on.
Hello?
Bro, so my camera just shut off because the battery died. So now you're seeing more of my body without the added benefit of having a lovely, sweet Sony camcorder filter on that. So, girl tech, girl slop. I've been getting really annoyed by the girl stuff, and I've been trying to pull together a lot of resources and a lot of verbiage that allows me to make my points fairly without me seeming like a massive misogynist, self-hating, like bum, like femcel loser, which I'm maybe two of those things, but not all of them together. You know what I mean? I've stated this in my previous videos. I think that when things trend and people hop onto the trend, if it's a net good, then it's annoying, but it's generally positive, so it's fine. I think that's amazing. You know, love is a beautiful thing. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing that people can get into these things. It's a beautiful thing that people are cheering on someone who is like soldering the fuck out of their earrings to make like this amazing jewelry like garment that also tells time. I think it's amazing that people are making fun technology. I think it's amazing that people are decorating their stuff. I think that's super cool and I like that. My issue becomes, when do people start getting a hold of stuff and making it into slop content? And what does slop content mean? Hey guys, it's Began. I wanted to clarify that part of the point that I'm trying to make is that I feel there's a lot of, if you're going to be coding, you have to make it girly. If you're going to be doing any kind of soldering, if you're going to be doing any kind of tech work, you have to make it girly. If you're going to be getting into philosophy, how can you make it girly? It is kind of transgressive to take something and that is largely used by mansplainers to demean femme presenting people. Also, though, I think it is so weird and so strange and disgusting and icky and so stupid to see like the proliferation of all of this like girl shit. I don't need you to tell me how I can jailbreak my Kindle and market it to me as like being girly. I don't need that. I don't need you to do that. You don't need to girl everything up, especially because the girliness of it is a very strict definition of what girly is. Words start to mean nothing because they're used by marketing and ad campaigns to evoke an emotion more than connect to the actual meaning of anything. Where does content become slop? I think a lot of the time we think of slop as like fast produced. There's no vitamins in it, really, barely at all. Lots of paste. It's easy to digest. It's easy to eat a lot of. So you just keep funneling it down and it's easy to produce. But when is slop slop? I recently saw this post by Death to Stock, which I think is an interesting brand. And they essentially market themselves as a photo and resource hub for all sorts of like artists, creatives, people working in and outside of the commercial field. It has that like sans serif, cool, like minimal but elegant, sleek, and a little bit silly design style with hard edges and a really nice level of kerning. And they made this video called Sexiness in Soccer.
Soccer is looking sexier than ever, and it has nothing to do with FIFA. As seen in the bootleg jerseys your favorite it girl is wearing, in third spaces merging live music, fashion, and sport, on the pitch itself where artists are finding new space for installations and visual storytelling. 2 years ago we talked about how a new generation of global fans are pushing the sports towards more creative and progressive spaces around identity, inclusion, and self-expression. Now brands have caught on. Now we brought these assets together with references to the soccer zeitgeist and the brand activations operating in the space into one mood board. Comment fuck FIFA for access.
When I added this to my sheet, I said, I don't know if I like Death to Stock's model. Generating think pieces to promote mood boards feels like a tool for the average quick form aesthetic creator. And I do stand by that. You want to talk about what the girls are doing? The girls are making marketing and ad campaigns using the video essay format, which is popularized by and largely dominated by attractive young women. They're using such a format to get you. They did this thing about soccer and sexiness. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Which is a shame because I think most of the time I really like Death to Stock. I think sometimes they do things that hit weird where I'm like, You know what I mean? Not too much on them, but also like a little bit of on them. Yeah, girl. So those are some research things that I've been thinking about and that I'll hopefully will cobble together some kind of video about. I have a couple of things kind of like loosely written up, but not really. I do think it's kind of funny the idea of basically scripting a video just so I can put it on my Substack and the difference in the mediums and the performance of something that you technically already performed because writing itself is its own quiet performance, you know, a silent performance. But yeah, you guys, sorry about my camera dying. That's really embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. That's so embarrassing for me, but that's okay. What have you guys been interested in lately? What are some cool topics that you've noticed in your neck of the woods? I think that I have trained, the Mesopotamian wind gods that control my feed to drip me very specific things so that they can convert me easier. But I think different people have different things that they get drip fed and that they find interesting just naturally. So, what's happening in your neck of the woods? What are your friends talking about? What have you noticed? Popular culture seems to be varying there too. I haven't been talking a lot about what I think a lot of like the general public seems to be getting interested in because I have this delusion that I'm, occupying several different niches and that they're all like incredibly, incredibly like no one knows about any of them. Newsflash, dumb, they do. I would love to hear about what you guys are getting into. What are the sights, sounds that are occupying your head? I hope that I have not been too distracting with my and if you heard anything, then listen. I don't give a. Hopefully, that gets edited out in post. Oh, that background noise is. Oh, yeah. I really hope the editor does something about that. Well, we'll see. This would be more impressive if I could actually see. But I genuinely can't see shit without my glasses. So, I was that not a little bit like, whoa, that's so cool that she can do that. You thought it was cool, right? Please. Anyways, thank you for buzzing by. Thank you very much again. And I hope to see you in the next video. Again, feel free to follow me on Instagram. Talk to me there. I love having long conversations with strangers. I like it when strangers become like cool people that I know and become friends. So I hope to see a friendly face. Thank you so much for watching this video and feel free to watch some of my other videos discussing a range of topics which I have touched upon before. Okay, I'm done. Bye. Also, does anyone know how to get rid of fruit flies? Breaking away from the video entirely, but does anyone know how to get rid of fruit flies? Now, that's been something that I've been researching a lot. Getting rid of fruit flies. Oh, and I also forgot to mention the thing about the confession. I'm writing something about that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, bye.